You're listening to Heritage Radio Network.
Welcome to One Bite is Everything. I am Dana DePrima, your host. Weekly on the podcast, we dive into issues relating to the food on your plate and connections from that food to the rest of the world. Sometimes it's about restaurant equity, sometimes farmers or policy, various industries, ingredients with input from experts, academics, frontline workers, pundits, and more. And sometimes I think it's important to take a step back from the micro focus and get into the big picture. And it's the big picture I have been worrying about. When you add up any of these little perspectives, that bigger picture begins to take focus. So today I want to give you a brief tour through 10 issues that are heating up and combining into one big issue surrounding your food. We can call it a food crisis. That's what these 10 signs are pointing to, especially when you look at them together. So let's walk through 10 signs that indicate that everyday food costs and availability are about to get more difficult. Let's get into it. Sign number 1. The USDA funding cuts are draining key farm programs. Let's begin with a major cut in the USDA's Farm Production and Conservation Mission. The Farm Service Agency, Risk Management Agency, and Natural Resources Conservation Service, or NRCS, all are experiencing cuts. NRCS alone dropped from $1.6 billion in 2025 to just a predicted $41 million in 2026. That's a dramatic reduction in soil conservation, crop insurance, and disaster relief. So why does this matter? When NRCS and FSA can't offer technical assistance or conservation programs, farmers lose resilience fast. And that can mean tighter supply and higher price risk at the checkout. Sign number 2. USDA layoffs and a relocation cut rural support access. USDA laid off over 5,600 staff and moved thousands of Washington-based employees into regional hubs, cutting centralized expertise. Service delivery by NRCS and FSA is slowing. This weakens support for rural producers facing pests or extreme weather. Typically, farmers would be able to call their local offices and to get some support. Farmers are losing access to local USDA offices, and that means slower aid and slower recovery. When field-level help disappears, production suffers, and retail costs rise as a result. From missing USDA support, let's shift into another underreported cut that hits rural information flow directly. Sign number 3. Public broadcasting cuts reduce vital farm information. Cuts to the Corporation for Public Broadcasting have defunded many NPR and PBS rural affiliates. That means fewer local weather reports, market price updates, and agronomic programming that reaches farmers. Without local public radio support, farmers lose timely alerts on storms, pests, or markets. And why does this matter? When farmers operate with less information, crop timing and decisions suffer, leading to yield loss or supply gaps down the line. For farmers, communication is everything. Let's take a look at how trade policy is simultaneously undermining farm profitability and supermarket prices. Sign 4. Tariffs raising input costs and shrinking farm markets. Tariffs on imported fertilizer, equipment, and goods from Canada, Mexico, and China are increasing input costs. At the same time, retaliatory tariffs are eating into U.S. soy, poultry, and grain export markets. Farmers are squeezed on both ends. And why does this matter? Rising costs reduce productivity, or shrink acreage, and reduced exports limit farm income, meaning less domestic supply, translating to smaller inventories and higher consumer prices. Sign number 5. Households may pay up to $4,900 more per year on food. That is a scary number. A Yale Budget Lab informed analysis estimates that tariffs alone could cost the average household nearly $4,900 a year in higher grocery bills, about a 5% rise in 2025. Even if your income stays flat, your food buying power shrinks. That's not theoretical. Increasing tariff food inflation directly raises what you pay at the register. Tariffs are not the only driver. Consumer prices keep climbing regardless. Sign number 6. Grocery inflation remains stubbornly high. The Consumer Price Index shows that food at home is up 2.4% year over year through June. Meats, poultry, fish, and eggs rose 5.6%, with eggs up 27.3% in 12 months. The overall CPI was up 2.7% in June alone. Over the last month, food at home also rose 0.3%. For families watching every dollar, rising meat and egg prices reduce flexibility and affordability. Over time, food becomes a heavier burden on household budgets. All right, well, let's turn to labor. No labor, no harvest, no food on the shelves. Sign number 7. ICE raids are causing farm labor collapse. Recent ICE raids in California's agricultural regions have triggered major absenteeism. 25% to 70% of workers failed to show up due to fear of deportation. In Ventura County and Central Valley, farmers report workforce drops of up to 70% during peak harvest. Immigrants make up roughly 80% of farm labor. These massive absences spell lost harvests. One expert warns if 70% of your workforce doesn't show up, 70% of your crop doesn't get picked. Delayed or lost harvests create shortages, fruit and vegetable rot in the fields, and prices rise or availability dips sharply at stores. And while farms lose workers, rural healthcare support is evaporating too. Sign number 8. Medicaid cuts threaten rural hospital survival. The One Big Beautiful Bill Act includes sweeping Medicaid reductions, some $58 to $91 billion in rural Medicaid cuts over 10 years. According to Families USA, rural hospitals could lose 56% of net income, with 55 additional independent rural hospitals across 26 states at risk of closure. In Missouri, Pemiscot Memorial Hospital, often the only provider in this county, faces imminent shutdown. Farmers and rural communities lose access to care. When people go untreated, productivity drops, resilience declines, and farm outputs weaken. Now let's talk about climate for a second. Still a wild card that intensifies all of these pressures. Sign number 9. Extreme weather is amplifying food inflation. A recent study featured in Environmental Research Letters shows that weather disasters, droughts in California, and heat waves worldwide have fueled price spikes in staples like tomatoes, eggs, and coffee. These climate shocks compound existing supply bottlenecks. When farmers lack USDA support and lose health care or stable labor, they're also less able to respond to increasingly frequent climate disruption. The result is that supply drops and higher prices come at us consistently. All right, Let's tie all these strands together if we can. Sign number 10 is that there is shrinking farm resilience and fewer mid-sized producers. Putting all this together amid massive USDA cuts, out-of-work staff, labor shortages, trade shocks, healthcare loss, and climate stress, small and mid-sized farms are going under. Farmer profit margins are collapsing. Many operations are halting investment or closing outright. Fewer active farms means less domestic supply and less adaptability to shocks. That makes our grocery system brittle. Prices rise faster and shelves empty sooner. So here's what we've uncovered: 10 solid warning signs of a U.S. food crisis arriving at your grocery shelves. When policy cuts, labor disruption, trade policy, healthcare erosion, and climate volatility hit rural America all at once, your cart ends up with fewer options and a higher price tag. What can you do? You can support your local farmer, and I would suggest getting to be a part of a CSA, or community-supported agriculture, with a local farmer. You can push your representatives to protect rural hospital funding and USDA services. You can shop seasonally and consider store or pantry staples. It's really important to stay informed because these upstream policies are cascading right into your kitchen. I'm sorry to be the bearer of bad news, but now is the time you want to have a relationship with a small local farmer right there in your community. Your support will help them survive, and I'm pretty sure that they will be helping you as well. Thanks for tuning in to One Bite is Everything. I am your host, Dana DePrima, and I will see you here again next week.